Hey everybody, my name is Jason Calacanis. I'm an angel investor here in Silicon Valley. I've invested in 75 companies. A number of them have scaled. Scaling means growing very rapidly. And some of the companies I invested in haven't been scaling. So I had a genius idea. Why don't I bring together my 75 CEOs, CTOs, and my chief marketing officers, directors of growth, all that kind of stuff, into one event and have them share what they've learned about growing their businesses with all the rest of us. This event is called Scale, and it's taking place October 23rd and 24th in San Francisco. You are my guest. I'm inviting you to come join us, and there's going to be a discount code somewhere over here or here. You can look for that later. With me is Brandon. Brandon runs editorial for me. Brandon and I are going to go through the questions that our audience and my portfolio companies, which include people like Uber and Thumbtack and Signpost and a bunch of other great companies that have scaled, and we're going to talk about what they want to learn. And boy, do we have an all-star cast of speakers. Literally the best we've ever done in 20 years.
So proud of how it's come together.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
And it seems like it's resonated with people, the issue of scale, because everybody knows how to build a good product now. That seems to be table stakes.
Well, there's all these tools and services that make it really easy to do your hosting, right, or do your marketing, or automated, less people involved. But scale, how do you get to the biggest level of it? That's the question. That's the question.
And that's the question on everybody's mind. So let's go through the questions. And I'm just going to go through a couple dozen of these questions that we'll answer at the event. And this is how hard we're working on this. We're actually drilling down and saying, hey, every 5 minutes of this event, what question will be answered?
You're going to learn something here.
You're going to learn a hell of a lot. And you know what I find? If you learn one thing at one of these events, it pays for the whole ticket price and I don't want to sell it too hard, but it does pay for everything if you get one thing out of it. Because if your company grows, 1%, 2%, 3%, and you have a company doing $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million in revenue, and you grow at 1%, and I'm pretty much guaranteeing that will happen. Unless your company's terrible.
That's the @Jason guarantee, right?
That's the @Jason guarantee. I mean, I'm assuming your
And because there's two tracks, the business track and the tech track, if you send somebody from each side of your company,
right,
you might learn two things.
That's right. So you're going to learn something. All right, so the first question, go ahead, that people are
First
really
question
interested
is,
in hearing.
How do I reduce customer churn for my SaaS company? This is going to be answered by Signpost.
Right. Now, Signpost has grown tremendously. I invested in this company 4 or 5 years ago, and they have tens of thousands of small businesses on their platform. And they charge them monthly to manage their profiles on Yelp and Google Local and all these places that to do discounts like Groupons. Mm-hmm. And so Signpost is the perfect company to answer this question, because having customers churn, which means leave, quit, churn is the fancy word for that. Your SaaS company, software as a service, right? You pay a monthly fee like you would pay for any other monthly product, a subscription basically. You spend all this time building up your number of subscribers. And then if you can reduce the number of people leaving and quitting, then the number just keeps growing and growing and growing. And you usually have people who sign up for services they don't need, like a backup online service or lock down your social security number. And it's a scam. They get you to stay. They get you to sign up. You forget to unsubscribe, and the whole business is like a scam.
They just charge your credit card.
They just charge your credit card. What we're trying to do here is say, and I know what he's going to talk about, is he's going to really talk about how to provide value and how to make sure that people get value from your product. It's a great question and a great person to answer it. What's the next question?
How do I create relationships with cities and government? Okay. Which has been critical for Nextdoor's growth.
Yes. So Nextdoor, everybody knows, is on fire. It's growing very rapidly through a couple of very clever viral techniques. The most clever viral technique they have, it's basically Facebook for your neighborhood. So the 25 people who live around you can all be in a group. But the way they have done invites is particularly brilliant. You go in, and in order to join, you have to go to the Nextdoor website, and they send you a postcard to your house. On the postcard is a 4-digit number, a PIN number. You type in the PIN number, and now you've claimed your house because you couldn't have gotten the mail there, right? But then even better, you can send an invite to all your neighbors, which is so brilliant, right? This is the most brilliant viral strategy I've ever seen. So now all your neighbors are getting postcards with PIN numbers on it saying, join Jason at this address next door.
It's also a way to verify that the community is real, right? There's
Absolutely,
not people
that's
from
the whole
outside
idea.
the community. That's the whole point.
You nailed it, Brandon. The 100 people in your Brentwood community or your Bel Air community or Santa Monica.
Or the Tenderloin.
Tenderloin, Noe, you know who those people are. So that's going to be a great question. And also working with cities and government, what I found actually with Nextdoor was when I got on it, in Los Angeles at least, where I live sometimes and now I'm living in San Francisco, they had the mayor and all the local folks were in there because they know, and they were participating. So when the government is participating, because they want to get the votes of people who care enough to join Nextdoor. If you care enough to join your Nextdoor community, you probably vote. So this was brilliant. They used the politicians to get people in there and to validate it once people in there. Great topic. Next question.
How do I handle traffic spikes after media exposure? This is going to be answered by Hipmunk. So Steve Huffman, he gets on ABC every once in a while, on Good Morning America or something.
Right.
And they get these crazy traffic spikes, lots of users that are going to that site, and they have to be prepared for that.
Right. Now, this is very interesting because usually the servers and your customer support people, they're used to a pretty steady pace, right? So you're like, okay, I have this many customer support, problems a day, 50. And I have this many people buying every day, 500. But now I have a day where I have 500 problems and I have 5,000 customers. It went 10x, it went 100x. And you really have to figure out how to scale up and then down. You can't reasonably have, 100 people there for that thing. So he's the perfect person to answer.
Some websites are super seasonal, right? Like if you're Politico, election season, everybody cares about Politico, right? So your traffic goes up.
The third and fourth quarter
5x,
is huge.
Right? Yeah.
No, 5x, probably 100x.
100x.
All right, next question. I know, by the way, Steve from Hipmunk was also the founder of Reddit. So that has also scaled to over 100 million people. And he's a keynote, right? Who's next? What's the next question, rather?
How do I keep my database stable at scale? So LinkedIn in the beginning had one database, right?
Literally one database.
One database,
with
right?
all of our resumes in it.
Yes. And now what they've done is parsed out services within the database. So your feed is one, your profile is one, your recommendations are one, and this is a way to stabilize each part of your business and not have one thing crash, right, and bring everything down.
Right, because if all of a sudden, like that little skills section, which I really love on LinkedIn, where you can like vote on everybody's skills, like this person's good at SEO, that little skills section, that's a database unto itself. So if it gets corrupted or there's a problem, they can just take it offline, but people can still get your profile information. It used to be that you had to shard your database. It was like a crazy technical thing where you're like breaking the database up. Now it's like a bunch of independent databases that are replicated all over the place.
Microservices is what they're developing for.
It's a technical thing, but it's also a business thing. Really great to have LinkedIn there as well. Wow, these are the best companies in the world. Next question.
How do I make my hardware and software work seamlessly?
Now, who could answer that question? Who is the #1 name in home automation?
Nest is the best.
Nest is the best, bought by Google for billions of dollars. Tony Fadell runs it. So who did we get to speak about it? That would be the person who would be the best.
Right.
Would be Nest. Who
so
did we get? What
he
company?
works in the operations, right? It's Nest. Nest is the company.
We got Nest to speak.
They're very close, Jason.
Yes.
I'm putting them in there as a little push. Come on, guys, let's get in the door
Okay, so
here.
we got Nest. Perfect.
Yeah, we got Nest.
Okay. And they're going to talk about how to get the hardware and the software to work seamlessly. That's genius.
And work with the backend, right? So they have millions of users, millions of thermostats deployed. How do they all work together?
Got it. Okay, so and listen, they're doing thermostats, so this is critical. Like they can't screw up. And actually, they did screw up at some point. I think there was a problem with a software update. I mean, they fixed it very quickly.
Yep. But
I remember on Twitter, all of a sudden, Nest, big problem, and then they solved it. So you have to be very careful with hardware, especially when it's something like home automation.
So to make it even more complicated, they're integrating with a lot of third parties now. So they're doing this deal with Mercedes, where your Mercedes will know how close you are to your house.
And change the temperature?
Correct. Make sure it's cool when you get in there. And
oh my God, that's
so
genius.
And there's a bunch of other partners. You can check out their website.
That's so genius. So I'm like, okay, it's 105 degrees in Los Angeles or San Diego. I'm driving home. It knows I'm within 5 miles. It knows to get the air conditioner to get the house from 100 down to, 74 is going to take 10 minutes. So when it sees I'm 10 minutes out based on Waze traffic, which also Google owns, wow, my life is going to be perfect. Next question.
How do I build a push notification CMS?
Now, this is great.
This is going to be discussed by Bleacher Report.
Yeah, great
They're
company.
doing billions of pushes a month.
Yeah.
And instead of outsourcing this to Push.io or Urban Airship, they built this CMS themselves.
Right. So we'll hear why they chose to build instead of buy it. Okay, the next one.
How do I simplify my API?
Great.
Another LinkedIn story.
Great. And this is very important because you really want to, when you have people building into your product can scale faster because you don't even, the best ideas are not going to come from within LinkedIn's building. It's going to come from outside. And then LinkedIn can study what people build with the API and then build it natively into the platform. Brilliant, brilliant question and a great person to answer it. Next.
How do I maximize BTLE efficiency?
That's Bluetooth Low Energy, and it's going to be answered by Jawbone, who make the Jambox and the earpieces. Fantastic. The Up wristband. Awesome, great hardware answer. Go ahead, next.
How do I select my startup's next market?
Okay, that's going to be Hotel Tonight and HomeJoy, two great companies that can answer it. And Hotel Tonight is fantastic. I love using that product. And rolling out to city like Uber has or Hotel Tonight has, you have to have a playbook, and you really have to think about it. What's the next question?
Next question is, how do I market to a younger demographic?
Okay.
Right.
Perfect.
So
and we don't have a company yet for this, but we want to.
We don't have a company. Snapchat would be great.
Okay.
I'm talking about how do you get the tweens, right? How do you get the 12 to 16-year-old kids?
Well, we know how people get colleges because they have college reps. So have we put that question in there? How to use college
marketing? No, that's
marketing?
a good one.
So let's add that to the list, which is how do I use a street team or college ambassadors? And I know that a lot of companies are using college ambassadors right now, so let's really tackle that one. And then let's tackle how do you get teens as well. Because I do think that they have high school ones, but there are legal issues around this. So make a note about that. Because I do know Scout and Yak Yak and a bunch of other things, and Secret even, are getting very popular. Whisper's getting very popular. We could ask Michael, an investor in Whisper, about that. It would be a great thing to speak about because there are technical issues to that as well, like and legal issues. All right, the next one I see here is how can I increase my email open rates? And that's going to be Red Tricycle. Red Tricycle is a very exciting business I invested in. They've got close to 1 million emails, and their open rates are spectacular. What does Red Tricycle do? Brilliant business by a woman named Jackie up here in Sausalito in San Francisco. They tell you what to do with your kids today, and today being this weekend. And if anybody out there has kids, you know how critical that is. And when you sign up for their daily candy-like email, you get this weekly email that says, hey, here, just take your kids and do this. Go apple picking here. Go to this farm. Go do strawberries here. Go to this arts and crafts thing here. Go to this dog meetup with bulldogs, whatever it is. It's genius. And getting people to open the email is critical. It's one thing to collect all those emails, but getting people to open them is a whole nother story. What's next?
How do I create a brand voice for my startup?
Now that's a great one. And I see you have Smule here is going to do it. Smule, everybody knows, makes all those musical things. They've had a lot of downloads.
A lot of downloads.
Over 100 million?
Yeah.
Hundreds of millions of downloads.
Across their suite, right? So they do a few different apps. They have a big karaoke app. They have a app that makes you sound like T-Pain, the rapper. You know, the auto-tune
The auto-tune
stuff.
one. Yeah, that's famous, yeah. So these guys really have made a brand around music, a very niche thing, and they've done it very effectively. What's the next question?
How do I attract service professionals to my marketplace?
Brilliant. And this is by Thumbtack, which is the second fastest growing startup I ever invested in. Uber would be number one. Thumbtack's number two. Thumbtack is brilliant because you say, I want somebody to teach me piano. I want tennis lessons. I need a painter. But it doesn't just say, here's a bunch of painters. It says, oh, I want a painter. And it says, okay, is it a commercial job or is it for residential? You say it's residential. It says, how many rooms do you want to paint? You say 5. You say, do you have the paint or not? Do you have trim? Do you have cabinets? You know, whatever. And you answer like maybe 10 questions, and it seems like it's a lot of work. Well, if you answer those 10 questions, you can get an accurate quote from really highly qualified people. And how many service professionals do they have now? It's
I don't know the number
thousands.
of service professionals, but they're doing about $1 billion in transactions for the service professionals a year.
Yeah, it's tens of thousands. And getting that side of the marketplace is one thing to get customers. It's another thing to get service professionals, and they have the best ones because they're vetting them. Okay, next question.
How can I quickly build an effective referral program? This is going to be answered by Wealthfront.
Wealthfront's an amazing product. I'm a shareholder in that as well. And Wealthfront is, instead of paying 1% to your money manager and just, you know, you get a 4%, 5% return every year, you pay some taxes, you're down to 3%, and then you give 1% to them.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. And it seems like 1% is not a lot until you realize it's one of 3 points. So it's actually 33 or 25% going to the money manager who does nothing. What the folks at Wealthfront do is they only take 25 basis points. So literally a fourth or a fifth or a sixth of what most money managers charge. They do it all online, but they have a referral program that I've been using. So I'm always telling people, because I'm an investor, like, hey, go get Wealthfront. It's amazing. And they send me an email of, these are the 17 people who signed up with your code, and then these are the ones who've done the deposit. So I can then go email the ones who haven't and be like, hey, you know, you should really try it. And they give you $5,000 or $10,000.
Five.
It's $5,000.
Yep.
$5,000 of money managed with no fee.
Correct.
So when you have your money manager currently and you refer somebody, he doesn't do anything, she doesn't do anything. But here, if you get 20 people to do it, the first $100,000 you have at Wealthfront is managed free, fee-free. Genius idea, and it's really growing the company quickly.
It's a pretty consistent theme in growth is how do you think about growth at the product level, right?
Right.
So from the beginning, not to tack on a growth team at the end,
Right.
not an afterthought, but how do you think about your product growth from the beginning? Obviously, Wealthfront has done that.
Okay, next question. Let's keep moving.
Yep.
13 minutes in here. We're going to do this for another 3 minutes.
How can I scale my user acquisition with Facebook ads?
Genius. We should get somebody from Facebook for that, or
Yes,
somebody
we should.
better. We should get somebody. You know who we should get is we should get Andy from Social Capital Partnership, who's been doing this for Better, which is a really cool health app. I'm not an investor in, but I would like to be. So Andy, Associate Andy, is amazing. He's doing Better right now and getting people to install it. It's really cool. Next.
How do I scale and maintain the sense of community with my users at the same time?
Okay, it's a little bit. You wrote that one? It's a little bit kludgy, or did we get that from a submission from somebody?
It's a submission.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is said in a little bit of a
Yeah.
weird way. I would say it, how do I grow my community without losing the spirit
Yep.
of the community? And I can answer that because I have it with This Week in Startups, but we should really think about who's grown a community to scale. And Reddit's obviously one, but there are others. And so this is even, you know, would be a really great person to answer is like Fred Wilson, because he's got a real community in his comments. He probably is not going to be available. We should really think about who's got a great commenting system where people comment and it's vibrant and intelligent. It's a really great question. Next question.
How do I get my crowdfunding campaign featured?
By Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and we actually have Indiegogo coming, so they'll answer it.
Yep.
What's the next question?
What press outlets drive downloads?
This is brilliant. So
your
downloads
it's
of
your
apps.
question.
Oh,
How
well,
could it
okay,
not?
but I didn't. No, somebody else asked it as well because
Okay.
I phrased it a little differently. I said apps, but there are certain outlets that are secret outlets that will get you more downloads than others. So everybody thinks, oh my God, USA Today. Yeah, US Today is great, but there might be somebody like for Android or for iOS apps or for iPad apps, or specifically iPad apps for education. That's this tiny little blog, and you get them to do a post about it, or you get somebody who's got a YouTube channel, and you pay them, as people are doing this, like pay them $500 or give them a gift card, and they talk about your product and what's good and bad about it, and then all of a sudden that influencer with 500,000 or 100,000 subscribers, all those people go search for your app. So you have to really think about it. There are smaller outlets that are easier to get to than the New York Times or USA Today, who might drive more downloads, in fact. Next.
Are infographics expensive to build? Do they drive business? And how do you measure their effectiveness?
This is great because I get a ton of these infographics.
They're really cool.
And sometimes they're really cool. Sometimes I find people do them schlocky. And so I really want to know is how much does it cost to do one? So we got to make sure we really find somebody who's done these. And there is a company that does them or a website that will build them automatically for you. But I think they cost $1,000 to $10,000 to do.
$10,000.
Yeah, if you want to do like a really good one,
Yeah.
where like the person who's doing it is a Nate Silver type person who can actually do the metrics and statistics, and they might spend 2 or 3 weeks making something, but it creates 10 news stories and then 100 shares, and you think about the media impressions, it could be, you know, 1 million or 10 million impressions, and then you can put that against a CPM of what it would cost if you had bought it. Next question.
Yep. Are byline articles in Pando, Business Insider, TechCrunch, and LinkedIn worth the time for founders?
Right. So we see a lot of people writing articles. I am the CEO of this company, and here's my opinion on X, Y, or Z. And I always wonder, like, is that the best use of the CEO's time? Listen, I'm a writer. I do it all the time. But most CEOs are not great writers. A lot of them are using shadow writers, ghost writers, and they're terrible. And then a lot of them write stuff, and they get themselves in trouble. Like they write something about, like, you know, the homeless people, and we've had 2 or 3 people write about that who are CEOs, and it actually negatively, the guy from Bustle, who previously did Bleacher Report, that kid wrote like some horrible piece about like the homeless people here, and like it was kind of derogatory, and his brand took brand damage from it. So really there's a downside to this. Let's do a
It also
final-
can be just too marketing driven, right? Like you want it to be
Yeah.
interesting. You don't want it to be just marketing talk.
Yeah, so how do actually, that's a really good addition, that's a good punch up there, which is how do you pick something that has value for people, not just for you, right? It's sort of a Venn diagram. What helps me? What helps the reader? If you can have them overlap, like when I write about angel investing, like, oh, that helps the people who are reading about it, but it also helps me because they're realizing, oh, you're an angel investor, right? Okay, we're in sync now. Next one.
How do I increase my rank in the App Store?
Well, that's super interesting. And what else? Next. Give me the next question.
How do I write tweets that increase app installs?
Great. That's awesome. Keep going. Blocking and tackling. Love it.
What do I do when a customer is unhappy?
Fantastic question. Now, do you have somebody in line to answer that, or like a wish list?
Yep. So, a Hotel Tonight, Patrick Cheeseman, the customer
wow.
support manager, he's going to talk about what happens. I mean, stuff happens in the real world, right?
Sure.
Yeah. He's going to talk about how they handle that.
Well, you know what's great is if you get what's called the save, you can then turn that person into an advocate.
Sure.
So a convert is sometimes the best advocate. So if you say like, hey, you know, I know that we sold you a hotel, you paid $299, and then you saw it cheaper somewhere else. We're going to give you a discount code that gets you double the difference on your next stay. And thank you. You might actually turn that person into somebody who writes an App Store review and who does a click to tweet.
Uber does this really well too, right? Like
Oh, absolutely.
You have a bad ride, or the guy's not nice to you. Like they'll give you $5, right? And then
Oh my God, yeah.
that's a whole nother Uber ride. Like you're stoked on it.
Yeah, absolutely. They turn a bad experience into brand loyalty. Next questions.
Let's see, where are we? How can I identify new salespeople that will fit my culture and won't quit in 6 months? Excuse me.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, you want to have you don't want to put salespeople in who work against your team or who waste everybody's time. Next.
Right. How do I reduce churn in my sales team?
Right. So we're going to have a whole section on scaling your sales team, which a lot of companies are going through. Give me another question.
How do I streamline my manufacturing?
Great. We have a lot of hardware startups. Next.
Yep. How do I onboard independent contractors?
This is great because we have so many people who are using independent contractors here, from HomeJoy doing cleaning, and Lyft and Uber, and other people, Sidecar, doing rides. Fantastic. Next question.
How do I best use remote workers?
Okay, similar question. Keep going.
How can I recruit senior designers and devs with limited funding?
That's a fantastic question. So you're on a budget and you need to get senior people. What are the tips and techniques? Well, you have to find people who are passionate about your vertical. So we have calm.com as an investment. They do meditation and mindfulness. They've been able to find great developers who have done well at other companies, made money in stock options at Google or Facebook or whatever, Twitter. And now they're looking for more purpose. So they're like, I really actually want to work for the company that's going to bring meditation to a large number of people around the world. I'm actually not really salary driven as much as I am mission driven. I've made enough money in my life, or I've got a little bit of a buffer. I'd rather go to work every day and have meaning. Like I'm not working on an ad network. I'm actually working on a product that helps people.
That you care about.
That you care about. So this looks great. We've got a great group of people coming, and what a great group of companies coming. We're represented from Pinterest to Hotel Tonight to Yammer to Wealthfront, Expedia, Indiegogo, just tons of people, and tons of great people coming. There's already 400 plus people RSVP. We're going to cap that off at 500 or 600, I think. So go to launchscale.net. And you can get more information. And if you want to email Brandon your suggestions for speakers, brandon@launch.co. You can email him anytime. And it's going to be an amazing event. I hope you join us. And it's October 23rd and 24th here in San Francisco at Mission Bay. We'll see you at the event. It's going to be amazing.